Namaste everyone and welcome again. I will chant the invocation. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraha Stirairangaistushtuvangsastanoobhihi व्यशेमदेवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्ताक्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I will also chant first 5 verses together. Om Brahma Devanam Om Brahma Devanam Prathamas Sambhabhuva Vishwasya Karta Bhuvanasya Gopta Sa Brahma Vidyam Sarva Vidya Pratishtham Atharvaya Jeshtaputraya Praha Atharvaniyam Pravadeta Brahma Atharvatam Purovachangire Brahma Vidyam Sa Bharadvajaya Satyavahaya Praha Bharadvajo Angirase Paravaram Shaunako Havai Mahashalaha Angirasam Vidivadupasannah Papracha Kasminnu Bhagavo Vijñāti Sarvamidam Vijñātam Bhavatiti Tasmai Sahovacha Tve vidye veditavye itihasmayat brahmavido vadanti parachaiva paracha tatra pararigvedo yajurvedas samavedo atharvavedah shiksha kalpo vyakaranam niruktam chando jyotishamiti atha parayaya tadaksharamadigamyate. So with this, we are introducing ourselves to one of the very defining portions of Mundaka Upanishad, which is distinguishing what is knowledge, which will be called as Brahma Vidya. In other words, According to Upanishad, Brahma Vidya alone is what can be called as Vidya. And to differentiate this, it classifies Vidya, which is two kinds to be known. It calls anything which is not Brahma Vidya is called apara Vidya, but is also helpful, can be gained, to be gained. But one needs to understand that gaining apara Vidya is not Brahma Vidya. So then what is Brahma Vidya? Apara Vidya, let me rephrase this. To know what is Paravidya, we must learn to identify what falls in the category of Aparavidya. Shastra, of course, has said the four Vedas and the six Vedangas are all Aparavidya. But the important distinguishing factor in Aparavidya means that Vidya will be called Aparavidya, which will have the following characteristic, which I'm about to state. What is the characteristic? A knowledge which requires adhyanam, swadhyayanam, which means swadhyaya was a very specific term, meant that each person in their own branch of Vedas, etc., were learning that branch of Ved, and along with it, memorizing it, after which there was or is the necessity to practice it, called Anushtan Karna. And having practiced it, a very significant feature of it is that it is phalayukt. Phalayukt. Phal se juda hai wo. So I'm going to now consolidate what I just said. Knowledge which is dependent on your studying it, memorizing it, learning it, repeating it to yourself again and again till you know it. That is also knowledge. So I know about it, I know it, but having gained that knowledge, the content of the knowledge is that you have to now put it into practice. You have to now put it into action. You have to now do it, follow it, practice it. Once you have gained the knowledge, that knowledge in which the important aspect is that you have to now practice it. And only after you practice it does the fruit of that action, that knowledge will bring that fruit to you. Since I'm presuming all of us are now fairly advanced listeners of Vedanta, a lot of this you would have connected by yourself, hopefully. What is it that is significant now? To learn this knowledge, when you are learning this knowledge, a knowledge which when learned is connected to your practice and is connected to a fruit in the future. Whichever knowledge helps connect these three is apara vidya, which means though it is to be known, but having known it, it is dependent upon the karta in me, because I may follow it or I may not follow it. I know it, but if I do not follow it, this knowledge is nishprayojanam. Like, for example, I may know how to bake a cake. I have read the recipe. I have knowledge of it. But that knowledge of baking a cake, I have read it from the book. I know it. I know the ingredients. I know the step by step processing. I have learned it. I have memorized it. But just learning and memorizing the recipe on how to bake a cake does not bring a cake to my mouth. I don't relish a cake just because I know how to bake a cake. This vidya, which is vidya for sure, but it is incomplete without putting it into practice. It is incomplete because it does not bring the result it is intended for. It does not give you anything. I know it is the only thing that the phal of it is. But that phal has no prayojan unless and until, of course, I educate someone else who benefits from it. And a lot of us in Vedanta are such knowers of Vedanta. Because Shastra says to know Brahma Vidya, you must have this apara Vidya also. Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakaranam, Niruktam, Chandas, Vedas, Adhyayanam. All this Adhyayanam is necessary for Brahma Vidya, sure enough. But all this Vidya's characteristic is that it is dependent upon your karta and it keeps your bhoktritvam alive. It's dependent on that. Which means only when I have learnt what is vidya and I then start to follow what is most of this Vedic vidya, all shiksha, kalpa, all of them have a distinct feature of being connected to karma in the form of karma or upasana. If this knowledge that one has gained through your senses, this is the second feature. What is the first feature? The first feature is of apara vidya is that it connects the knowledge to your karta, to your bhokta. A knowledge as knowledge is knowledge, but the content of it will be such that it will make you a karta. It involves your karta. And why will anybody do it? Because it is connected to the result one wants to enjoy. This is the first feature. What is the second feature of it? The second feature is that knowledge that you have gained through senses, very crucial feature. The knowledge which has been gained through senses, and if the result itself brings back as one of the fruits to be enjoyed through the senses, by the senses. Knowledge gained by senses, and the result of it is also involving the senses, automatically becomes apara vidya. Example of the cake again. I know the cake, how to bake a cake, and I do nothing about it. It is knowledge. Such a knowledge is not Brahma Vidya. Second thing, I know about how to bake a cake. I put it into action, and then I get a perfect cake. I eat it and I relish it, the fruit has again come back at the realm of the senses and it exhausts itself. So, if you look at the cycle of such a knowledge, a very crucial feature, yah pashyati sa pashyati. If you look at the cycle of this knowledge, it ends in bhoktritva. It ends in bhoga. And bhoga again dependent on the senses. Which means such a knowledge which will culminate itself with the senses is apara vidya. Knowledge gained through hearing, listening, seeing, etc. Left alone to by itself, nishprayojan, gives me nothing. I just know it, but it's of no value to me. That knowledge has no added advantage to me unless and until I put it into practice. If I put it into practice, I have an advantage. I have a better advantage than those who do not know it. Further advantage now is that I become the enjoyer of it. I enjoy it. Watch the cycle. The minute the phal has come and got exhausted in the realm of senses, this is distinctive of concluding it to be not Brahma Vidya. Therefore, it is apara vidya. It is not para vidya. Therefore, it is apara vidya. What is the difference then? What is para vidya? Do the opposite of it. Yes, senses will have to be gained, helped for hearing, because in para vidya, the subject of the content of the words that have been pointed to does not involve the cycle of karta, but involves the reduction of or absolving the karta and the bhokta. That means the minute the words are heard, Vedas had Vedanta in it, interspersed, we all know this by now. The minute the words are heard, the words that belong to the portion of Karma Kand, Upasana Kand, will automatically become apara vidya. The words that pertain to Atma, Brahman, if they are left as is, it means I know about them, I have recited them, I have memorized them just like the rest of the Veda, but there is nothing happening with those words. Nothing shakes me. They are not bringing a cognition of Atma Vritti. They are not resulting in nivritti of karta and bhokta. Careful. While the karma kand and upasana kand will bring strength to karta and bhokta, Vedanta part of it should be reducing, diminishing the karta and the bhokta. Which means knowledge per se, just as knowledge per se is not classified as para or apara. But the minute this knowledge has brought about the meaning, that meaning which will then absolve away, dissolve away, reduce the karta and the bhokta, which in other words means a significant feature of Paravidya is that while to know Aparavidya, you don't need any changes to your Antakarnam. But to have Paravidya, the same words, you will need Shama, Dama, Adi, Sadhana, Chatushtayam. Because it is only by developing the vairagyam from the sense perception and the bhoktritvam, unless until I have the uselessness or the futility or the limitation seen of the fruit that apara vidya is bringing to me, till then I'm not going to be qualifying for paravidya. I hope this is conveying to some extent. I'm going to repeat this once more. Vidya, start from Vidya. Ved has classified Vidya. Ved is all Vidya. Shaunaka has asked a very important question. Question is, tell me that one knowledge, one Vidya, जिसको पाने से मुझे सब विद्या का ज्ञान हो जाएगा. I will know all knowledge. That's the question. Angiras has started answering that. Acharya has started answering that. And to answer that, he says, there are two types of knowledge which should be known. You should know them. One is called apara vidya, one is called paravidya. By the time we've come to this verse, he's now already explaining what is apara vidya. And what is apara vidya? Apara vidya is that vidya which will involve study, adhyanam, swadhyayanam of your own school or whatever, repeating, memorizing. Swadhyaya would include anushtan of it. Anushtan would mean practicing it. If you don't practice it, you don't get the fruit. It's nishprayojanam. And you practice it for fruit. So the cycle of karta and bhokta to karma is intact. Wherever knowledge involves these three, develop the perception. Whichever knowledge involves these three is called apara vidya. Second feature is that it in itself dissolves away. It goes away in culminating. It exhausts itself with the fruit. As the fruit exhausts, the knowledge has produced its phal. You can redo the action. You have the knowledge. As many cakes you bake, it's okay. You have finished it. So what has happened here? The knower has remained intact and is employing the knowledge. He has remained, the knower is intact as is. Nothing's changed about the knower. The knower is knowing the knowledge, and that knowledge is bringing the fruit, and that fruit is owned up, and this knower is untouched by it. Apara vidya. What happens while you do the same action? Since you're all, I'm presuming, fairly good students, advanced students, have heard the Gita is what I mean by advanced students. If you've heard the Gita already, the same karma, Shankaracharya has put it in his Bhashyam there also, and in Upanishads he repeats it also. The same karma that has been now advocated as apara vidya, the same karma when it is done nishphalam. You do it without any kama, nishkama phala. When you do the same karma, nishkama bhav, now what has happened with this vidya is, this vidya is no longer growing the karta. You are still doing anushtan of karma. You are still abiding in it. But now it is more dependent upon the phal that will come from it is shuddhi. Therefore, what is paravidya really dependent upon? Is dependent upon you developing chatushtayam, sadhan chatushtayam, adhikaratvam from the realm of aparavidya, which means viveka, vairagya, shama, dama. Through all that karma, one is developing chatushtayam, and that sadhana chatushtayam is what is going to become the means for knowledge. That knowledge which will now bring about the recognition of the knower. How does it bring the recognition of the knower? Because this knowledge is characteristic of destroying the karan, cause, with which was assumed that you are the karta. The karan and the cause, we all know, is avidya. When apara vidya has been learnt, he said it is to be known. But when this apara vidya is known and heard, the characteristic of it is that it no longer brings you into the cycle of bhoktritvam, but you start developing vairagyam from bhoktritvam. Lose interest in the phal, ichha. You are sticking to doing what is to be done. Not interested in so much, not doing actions for the sake of gaining something, which, as we have already seen a lot in Bhagavad Gita, because Karam Yoga gets explained so well over there, which Upanishads don't explain so well. So, Brahma Vidya, Paravidya, is another word for Brahma Vidya, which means I can know that I am Atman Brahman, and I can teach. So that recipe, which has made no difference to me, I've never baked a cake, but I know how to bake a cake, and I hand it over to somebody else. That is actually all, in the Gita we said the teacher should be Brahmanist. If you don't have a Brahmanist teacher, then all of us are like that. You learn and you pass it on. You learn, hamara jitta fayda hua, tumhara ho jaye to tum seekh lo. Which means I am not baking a cake with it, or I may have already, that's up to me. But the recipe still holds true for you also. You can also bake a cake. So if you see the whole cycle, Paravidya will be something which is equatable to Brahma Vidya. And what is Brahma Vidya? Brahma Vidya is knowing. Is not just knowledge of Atman is Brahman. That is knowledge. But as long as Atman is Brahman is related to senses, I expect Brahman to be gained. I expect Brahman to be as a product of action as is any other knowledge that I am involved in gaining. So in Paravidya, the characteristic would come to as where you are beginning to get the cognition of the words, they leave the meaning unfolded to your antakarnam. So Atman is Brahman gets understood only when there is apara vidya has given its right place, has been given its right place. Then Paravidya is now knowing the knower, recognizing the knower. This knower of apara vidya, when it becomes to recognize that the cyclical continuity is binding, is actually not real vidya. It is somehow keeping me in my cyclical existence. It is somehow always the cause of a sense of individuality, sustained and grown. The minute the knower of this knowledge gets inkling into it, starts to develop disinterest in what it has to offer to me, but it cannot give up the knowledge. Now the result of this knowledge starts to change because Antakarna has changed, and slowly the Vedantic portion of the Veda starts to make sense, because in this Antakarnam, which has Shama, Dama, Adi as the requisite for knowledge, that portion now starts to make sense. To explain this a little more with the help of an example, what is the Paravidya? I'm now beginning to emphasize more on that, having fairly understood, I presume, what is Aparavidya. The example, let's take pot and clay. If you have knowledge of pot, to know that what is pot made of, do you have to break the pot? Or do you have to have the knowledge of the clay? Having the knowledge of clay, you begin to identify clay in the pot by dismissing the pot name and form in the pot. I'll repeat. In the example of pot and clay, question asked by the student is, "Oh Bhagavan, what is this pot? The reality of the pot. What is this? Its true nature. What is the true nature of this pot?" Teacher says, the true nature of pot is clay. How does the student know that it is clay? Does he have to break the pot? And by breaking the pot, the pieces of the pot, now he knows it is clay? No. The clay knowledge. What is clay? Clay knowledge he gains. And having gained clay knowledge, he identifies clayness also belonging to the pot. And he sees its sustenance. Clay is sustained. Not when he breaks the pot, but he breaks the cognition of the pot in his self, in his mind. The name and the form, नाम और रूप, वो जो पॉट का आकार है, वो उसको यहां तोड़ता है, and he sees that clay is the ingredient through and through, which makes it a pot. Same way, that means what did he do here? He took the nivritti, correction of Nama Rupa. By correcting the Nama Rupa that this is a clay, he gets the knowledge, sustained knowledge, undiluted knowledge, uninterrupted knowledge, abiding knowledge, that even when he's drinking from that or he's putting water in the pot, the knowledge that it is clay is uninterrupted. It never gets lost. Clay is its inherent nature. In the same way, or a similar way, a knowledge which is removing the hold of Nama Rupa in oneself, that knowledge is called Paravidya. Another way of explaining it is, I'm sorry for the pause, long pause. A knowledge which is going to give you information about something which is going to become an object of the knowledge, that knowledge will be apara vidya. I'm trying to bring the ideas into cognizable words, finding it a little different. The knower who knows the knowledge is the one who says, I am this person. I am this person. I am this person. How do you know this? Was it a knowledge of your senses? Did you get it through the knowledge like you get knowledge through your senses? I am this person. I am this deha. I am this jiva. What is the means for this knowledge? Anybody? What is the means of the knowledge that I am this person? I am a person. I am a jiva. What is the means of this knowledge? You have this knowledge. We all have this knowledge that I am an individual. That is our whole problem, that I am an individual and I'm an insignificant individual, or I'm a very significant individual. I have something added to that individual. I am an individual is a knowledge. What is the means for that knowledge? Deha. What is the means of that knowledge? It is an identification with Deha that you have that knowledge. But what is the means of knowledge? Is it only Deha? That is the means of knowledge. The means of knowledge that you are Jiva is actually Swata Siddham also. How is it Swata Siddham? Because Your senses belong to your body. Deha. Okay, avidya. Correct. Senses belong to the body. But I am an individual was not known by the senses. How? Senses only give knowledge of their respective tracks. आंख रूप और रंग का ज्ञान देती है, कान शब्द का ज्ञान देती है, एक्सेट्रा. आई एम जीवा, ये क्या इंद्रिय का ज्ञान है? इज इट अ नॉलेज ऑफ द सेंसेस? आईज, but I am a jiva does not have any knowledge of color, form. I'm a jiva. Just analyze that. I know I am an individual. In this I am an individual, is there a knowledge of eyes are giving knowledge of color and form? Ears are giving knowledge of sound. Nose is giving knowledge of smell. Tongue is giving knowledge of taste. Skin is giving knowledge of touch. I am an individual. Does this have these fivefold knowledges? No. I am an individual seems to be equivalent to, we may have to continue the class later again, but for now, is equivalent to, with the help of example I'm saying, I am an individual is not gained through any of your sensory knowledge. Do you have any other means of knowledge? Is there any praman for I am an individual? There is no praman for I am an individual. This is a very important statement if you're listening carefully. I am an individual. What are your means for knowledge? The five senses. I am an individual. This particular knowledge of yourself, conclusion of yourself that I'm an individual, can this be gained by any of these five senses? Because all these five senses are giving knowledge of their respective sense objects. It cannot give any other knowledge. आंख सिर्फ रंग और रूप दे सकती है. अहम देहः, देहो हम. I am this body. Aham manaha, I am this mind. I have my mind. I am these thoughts. This knowledge of me, the individual, I am jiva. This knowledge is based on what? What is the praman for it? What is the valid means of such a knowledge? Equatable to I am a jiva is directly equatable to this is a snake. Be very careful and focused, and please don't comment at the moment, Ramakrishna. For 2 minutes, let me finish the sentence. After I finish, then you can say. I'm not still used to, so I keep reading in between. Is equatable to the snake. I am an individual is equatable to us. This is a very subtle point. So if you have any prior knowledge, keep it in yourself. I'm sure you're all very advanced people. That is why I've restricted it only if you have already heard Gita before. You will have a lot of knowledge and it'll all be right. But this is a new perception, at least I think I'm trying to drive home something which can unfold from a new direction and maybe bring a perception closer. I hope so. For me, it worked. So maybe it works for someone else. I am An individual is not based on any valid knowledge. Five senses don't give me the knowledge of I am an individual. I seem to already have it by default. I don't know how I have it, but I've always believed that I'm an individual. And all of us never question it till Vedanta pounds on us year after year, year after year, year after year. And I'm telling you, after 25 years also, I will think I know it, but I'll be missing it. That is apara vidya. That aspect that I am this individual, I wake up with this knowledge. This knowledge, praman kya hai? What is the means of that knowledge? To which I had said few sentences ago, it is swata siddham. How is it swata siddham? It is equatable to the snake scene. This is a snake. The minute I say this is a snake, I feel I have seen the snake with my eyes. But actually, I have missed using seeing the eyes. Because if I had seen with my eyes, I would have seen the rope. If I had used the praman, I would have seen the rope. So this is a snake knowledge, is siddham, swata siddham, on its own adhishtan, which is swata siddham. The adhishtan is rope. That rope is swata siddham. And that swata siddham rope, somehow the praman used to recognize the rope as a rope is eyes, and I think I'm using my eyes. I have seen the rope, a snake, seen the snake. But that seen snake was only a aropit vision, a misperception. Aropit, adhyaropit, on the rope. I missed seeing the rope with the praman of the eyes because I am dull, aviveki. I was reactive to what I saw. I suddenly, by my past impressions, just presumed that it is a snake, and thereafterwards my dukkham and my sukham is dependent on that cycle. I'm sure everybody knows. The point is that snake is swata siddham on the rope. Adhishtan of the snake is rope. In that sense, it is siddham. Not swataha in the rope snake's case. It is siddham from the rope itself. With the idea that I missed using the praman accurately. You are a jiva. I have only woken up with this. All my life, all of us are only living like a prani. Vedas gave us the word jiva. I don't know about you people, but when I heard it the first time in a Vedanta class, it took me many months to understand a jiva word, because jeev we always understood it as external to other pranis. Mosquito jeev hai, makhi jeev hai, etc. Main jeev hu. And then takes a long time to understand jivatvam kisko kaha. Who is the one who gave me this knowledge of jivatvam? Praman. Which praman? Veda praman. Ved praman defined my individuality through apara vidya. that individuality which it kept on asserting through karmas, etc., by giving knowledge of it all, and saying you're a jiva, and if you do these karmas, you get lokantara prapti, you get this, you get that, and kept connecting me to karma and phalam cycle. It is that praman which misused or not used properly or not seen clearly is exactly like seeing the snake on the rope. That jivam has been introduced by Vedas. Jivatvam, you are a jiva, is introduced by the Vedas to just amalgamate this experience only to say that you are not this. So jivatvam has been defined with apara vidya only to negate and say you are not the jiva. But if by the same praman you start knowing who you are, seeing who you are, the knower who is not a jiva, that knowledge is Brahma Vidya. You get the knowledge of the Swata Siddha Adhishtan on which you are presuming you are the jiva. You get the knowledge of Atma is Brahman with the same praman, and that Swata Siddham Atma missed on the same Adhishtan is the Jivatvam seen, and Shastra is only pointing to Jivatvam and the cycle that it keeps itself in through karma and all. That, when it gives knowledge of, that is apara vidya. And the knowledge it has given of the Adhishtan of Jivatvam, and that knowledge, Adhishtan, is Brahman, Atman. Atman is Brahman. That is Paravidya. Which means, as long as, now I'm trying to consolidate it, as long as you have the knowledge of something, that becomes a prameya vastu, object to be known. It is something that is to be known. It is a prameya vastu. Knowledge of this karma, this loka, do this dharma, that adharma. It doesn't matter whether it's Laukik knowledge or Alaukik knowledge, Vedic knowledge or secular knowledge, chemistry, biology, etc. But it is all pertaining to a prameya vastu. So the praman of the senses used to get prameya gyan, prameya vastu, keeps the pramata intact. Pramata is the knower. Keeps the pramata untouched. So the knowledge gained by pramata, which is actually again a part of prameya, gives knowledge of prameya vastu, that becomes apara vidya. But the knowledge which is knowledge of pramata, and how is that knowledge gained of pramata? By nivritti of the imposed knowledge. That which has got self-imposed. I am a jiva is my imposition. We are already going through it. Vedas have helped me define it and understand. If I was to another person who doesn't have Vedantic knowledge, who are they? Individuals. What is their life cycle? Completely same for everyone. Sukha prapti, dukha nivrati, jara, vyadhi, etc. This consolidation of what is happening everywhere without knowledge of Vedic sanskar, I also have the same knowledge of myself. That is only one word, jiva. Uska adhishtan kya hai? That adhishtan gyan is paravidya. And that alone is knowing which you don't have to gain anything, go anywhere. That means the knowledge which will not take me to a new experience, lokantara prapti, that will not give me Brahma knowledge. I am Brahman, a new knowledge that's come up. All such things, vikars that will come, will be prameya. Knowledge which is free of all this. Yes, it is the knowledge of the subject. It is the knowledge of the knower. Knowledge of the knower, not as a vritti vishaya, but the vritti has dissolved itself, dissolved as in shown the adhishthan of jivatvam. And just as the pot knowledge could have is gained by gain of, clay knowledge is gained by gain of clay. Pot is made up of clay, is gained by clay knowledge. In the same way, that Brahman is you is the way the Praman, when gained by this knower, knows that I am not the Jiva. That knowledge is Brahma Vidya, is Paravidya. Okay. Yes, Ramakrishna, if you have to say anything, you can please say now before I conclude the class. I'm going to go through this maybe again another time, because this is a signifying aspect of this Upanishad. What is apara vidya? And if we understand this, most of the people who have come to Vedanta to ground themselves in Atma Vidya get complete clarity with this. And why our teachers in the Parampara have kept emphasizing that their Vairagyam gets clinched with this portion, because there is clarity of which knowledge is bringing what. If it is giving me a result in the realm of senses, then that knowledge is apara vidya. And Upanishad student and the Smriti Grantha student like Arjuna, the difference was in the Upanishad student, the student is aware that there is a knowledge which keeps me in the cycle. So Shaunaka is asking Angiras, I'm not interested in that knowledge. Give me that knowledge which is going to liberate me from this cycle, which means he doesn't know what that is. He's asking. There has to be that knowledge. He's heard it through his Karma Kand portions. What is that knowledge? Knowing which I will know all knowledges, which means knowing Atma Vidya, Brahma Vidya, knowing with the help of Praman. When I know this, it no longer is a prameya vastu. I am not a prameya to myself. I know myself as existent. I am existent. That Vishay, when that recognition is there, that is Brahma Vidya. That is Paravidya. Other than that, everything is Aparavidya. All words of all Upanishads. Yes, all professors in that sense. I don't know how many of you have got the bottom line. I don't think most of you would have probably got it in as clarity as possible. Some of you may have got it. The clinching difference between apara and paravidya is, for aparavidya, you need your senses, nothing more. You need yourself as a karta, bhokta, inquirer, of course, some little interest in something. That will give you the knowledge. But for paravidya, you will have to have sadhan chatushtayam, because that is the requisite. Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Samadhana, Viveka, Vairagya, Uparama, Shraddha. This is what will bring Paravidya. That difference is a very crucial difference. However, often one thinks that it is very fundamental in Vedanta. And I think a lot of you over here have heard it so often that you almost get disinterested in that portion. But in Vedanta, Upanishad has started by saying the difference between how do you get Paravidya. Even when you have heard Vedanta, Upanishads, when you will have finished hearing the Prasthanatrayam, it may still remain Aparavidya. Because the Shabda Gyan is not about, correct, the Shabda Gyan is not giving you the Adhishthana Gyan. Adhishthana Gyan is what is Paravidya. Paravidya. Okay, with this I will end the class. And just to conclude, I think this Thursday we will, before I conclude, this Thursday we won't have a class. I think for the month of May, we will just keep a class every Tuesday. And June, we will take a fresh call. So for now, only Tuesday is the Mundaka class, 5:30 to 6:30 in the evening. There will not be a class on Thursdays. This month, May. June will be a fresh call. I'll announce again. So let me just end the class. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma kaschit dukha bhag bhave. Hari Om. May all you remain well, your families and everyone. Continue your prayers. Wish you all the best. Namaste.